and welcome to One More Thing. Today I'm joined with Dr. Larry Baucom.
Good morning.
Morning. Well, we closed up in my opinion, a very powerful, inspirational, life-changing series and practical prescriptions. And you closed us off with a sermon that, even based on some of the staff's, response to it, upset the right people. And there's so many angles that you can take from this. And I loved how you kind of set it up from your own personal experience, being a pastor 40-something years. And I'd love for you to walk us through, briefly, when you were feeling like God was placing on your heart to plant that church here in Sarasota. Many people don't know, like you experienced rejection from people you thought that would support you. And yet you stayed the course. Like, fill us in on that.
Well, there's a couple of people in Sarasota. One was just a friend of mine. Used to be part of the church that I'd previously pastored. One of the rules of life is you don't go back and pastor where you pastored. But the other rule is, if you're going to do that, pull some time away, which I did. Don't contact your membership, which I did not. Don't ask for anything, which was, many people found out 2 or 3 years later that I was back and were a little ticked at me. Why didn't you tell me? Mm-hmm. And the answer is, I wasn't going to bring people from one community to the other. That's not what we're about. We're about starting something brand new. Mm-hmm. The denominational leader I had at that time was a friend of mine. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was a missionary. I visited him in New Zealand, actually.
Wow.
So I knew him for years, but I've never been a guy that is part of the establishment. So I always tell this guy, I said, look, don't let that shape this position you have as a leader, but don't let the position shape you. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Come into it and reshape it. And I think that's particularly true with pastoring. Some people would say, oh, this is the box for the pastor that I have, and that you need to fit within all 4 lines of this box. And I basically have chosen to define what the box for the pastor for me looks like. Yep. And maybe it's in a different area. Maybe it's not 4-sided, it's 5-sided or 6-sided or no sides at all.
Right.
But sometimes you cannot be a people pleaser. You have to be able to say, this is the conviction of my heart, and this is what I want to do, which leads to me to another thought, which is that some people say, if God, you just got to go through the open door policy. You just go until the door's open, you slip through that door, you keep going to another doors, and you find your way through there. I've never operated on that mm-hmm. philosophy. I don't know who created that. I don't aspire to it, and I don't believe
That's right.
it's accurate. Here's what I do think for me is, this is where you are, and this is where God is calling me to go.
Yep.
Any doors that are closed between here and there, I will knock on them or kick them down. But sometimes it's not the path of least resistance. There's a lot of resistance.
Yes.
And
yes.
most of the things I've done in my life have had some resistance between starting a church with no income, starting, in a community that was not there, but just believing in my heart, this is the right thing to do, and this is God's call. Here I am.
Yeah.
Send me. I see the need in my community. The church that was there, the other churches were not meeting this need, and we began to meet that need. And the consequences of that is we've been able to grow. And part of the structure of churches as a pastor is not just what you teach or what you believe, but there's often a political structure within the church that mm-hmm. keeps you from leading. Yep. You have 10 people who are elected to be your board members, and they don't even know what it means to be a pastor.
Yep.
And I mean, whatever job they have in life, maybe they're working in an insurance office or they're a marketer, but they have no idea what it means to really be a compassionate caregiver, Bible guy, researcher, and speak publicly. Mm-hmm. And they just don't know what that means. But it's easy for them to look on the outside and say, well, this is what you need to do, but they have no idea how many hours that takes.
Yes.
I was thinking this morning about teaching. For you and me, can you imagine you get up and give a TED Talk? It'd be an awesome experience to give a TED Talk. They own it. Once in their lifetime they get to do a TED Talk.
Right.
Well, some of us do TED Talks for 50 weeks a year.
That's right.
So we do a TED Talk every week.
That's right.
And it's not that we can, and our audience and other guys who speak on a tour, they have the same speech, but their audience changes. We have the same audience every week, and we've got to come up with ways to inspire them and encourage them on a weekly basis. And we sure as heck don't need a committee trying to tell us what to do or how to do it.
That's right.
But that's why I was able to create Suncoast, and the desire of my heart is to lead and to lead people where they need to be. Moses would have never taken them through the Red Sea if there'd have been a committee.
That's right.
But
That's
leadership
right.
is just forging ahead. So I know I went a lot of different
No.
directions on that answer, but if that's the call of God on your heart, then do it, and don't apologize. Just say this is what I feel called to do, and I don't want to hurt people. But if I upset you because I'm pastoring and helping people, and you think, well, you need to be somewhere else, or you're going to be competition to us. Churches should not be competitive.
No.
There's plenty of people out there that really need the Spirit of Christ. And I used to say this: there's out of the whole pie, there's only one slice of the pie that's Christian. The rest of the pie is not Christian. So everybody in the church world, if you want to compete, you're competing for the same slice of pie.
Yeah.
I go, you can have that slice. I want the rest of the pie.
Yep.
I'll go after that. You guys all go after this. And
Yep.
we've always tried to do things a little differently. The music's a little loud. The teaching's not overly judgmental or doctrinal. Or belief, shoving some beliefs or judgmental. We really are trying to help people, and that works for us very well.
Yeah, it's a beautiful way to say that. We see, a lot of response to who we are as a community. And, just yesterday on one of the social media platforms, a family member had ostracized one of our community members, and she was upset about it. And I just kind of said, it's okay. Like, this is why we're here. You don't have to respond. You remember what PL and I said, hate well. Mm-hmm. Don't hate the person, but hate the policies, the systems of belief that have constructed why they're, leaving you out of the circle of the family. Like, that's what you need to, pray against and hate or whatever, but don't hate the person. That's not our job. And it leads to one of the points that you made that I thought was really profound, in that you said doing the right thing does not include people's response to that decision. And I thought, golly, man, like, that's the way to live. Like, that's the way to live like Christ, because even when I moved to Florida almost 2 years ago, there was a response to that decision of what I felt God was calling me to do. And it's like, you're going to move away from the kids. You're going to miss this. You're going to miss that. For the most part, I haven't missed anything.
Right.
I've been able to make concerts and games and performances, and they've come here and they've created their own little friend community here. And it has been absolutely one of the most positive things for my children, and absolutely life-changing for me. And if I would have based it on people's opinion of that decision, it would not have happened. So when you talk about that, like, how is that a reflection of the teachings of Jesus when you say, do what's right, and people's response is not the determining factor of that, the ethicality, the meaningfulness of that?
No, I think that's true in Jesus' life. I mean, they were always trying to tell him to keep things quiet. Coming down the Mount of Olives, teacher, tell your disciples to be quiet. He said, hey, if I told them to be quiet, the stones would cry out.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do what you tell me to do.
Yep.
I'm going to do what's right in my heart to do. And I was talking about, listen to your heart. That's kind of the prescription. And I had all those other prescriptions.
Yes.
I want to be not harming but charming.
Yeah.
I got more laugh about that. But I do think that we try to do the next right thing. Now, I want to be very careful to say this. We don't go around in our lives trying to piss everybody off.
Right.
That's not our goal either. To put it in your face that I'm going to do this, and I don't care if you like it or not. No, that's not the approach. The approach is quietly, this is what we do because it's right. And when people don't understand, we give them the grace to not understand.
Yeah.
Because they're blind, and we need to be kind.
Yep.
I think that's part of the thing. It's just ease your way through. Don't put my hand in anyone's face or say, you just don't understand. But if they try to stop me, I need to politely say, this is my way that I need to walk. Allow me the courtesy to do this. And most people in my life have. Even that denominational leader, he did not agree with what I was doing, but he understood.
Yeah.
He understood. And in the back of his mind, he knew it's the right thing. But throughout history, people who create things, great leaders throughout history, they've often met with a certain amount of opposition. It doesn't just happen. You have to go against the grain. The status quo don't change anything.
Yeah, that's right.
Keep it quiet. And, you create a little controversy, not intending to, but if someone comes up and says, I really don't think you're doing what you should do, I just basically take a deep breath and try to smile and say, yeah, that's okay. You can think that if you want.
That's right. And change is sort of inevitable, and,
Sure it
and
is.
change is always met with resistance. So what would you say to someone, this is my last question, your prescription was listen to your heart, like listen and follow your heart. And it sounds very romantic, but it's not. Like, how would you tell to someone who may say, but my heart has let me down before. I followed my heart and it got broken. I've tried to, what are some practices real quick that a person can say, like, this is when you can know that this is with God, and as opposed to, this led you to heartbreak, but you can still trust your heart. Like, what would you say to someone who's been through that?
Well, I think there are people who do things and they make decisions, and maybe it was a very altruistic decision. This is what I think is the right thing to do. But when it doesn't work, then I have to pull it back and say, hey, maybe wrong time, wrong circumstance. My intent was good, but not everything we do is absolutely the right thing.
Right.
Sometimes we can tell the right things when we look in the rearview mirror. That worked, that worked, that worked. But we ignore the things that didn't work.
Yeah.
But not everything works. But I think that if someone comes in and says, I'm very materialistic, I really want this, I want this, it's all about me, me, a very narcissistic attitude,
Right.
egocentric. I think that sometimes they're not in touch with their heart.
Yeah.
Or they're not in touch with God's heart within them. They're ignoring the presence of God that's trying to nudge them to be a better human being.
Yeah.
And can they follow their heart and do the wrong thing? I think so.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes our heart needs to be in line with His heart. Or our heart, someplace the Bible says, when His Spirit bears witness with our spirit. This idea that when my eyes are open and I begin to see there's God within me.
Yeah.
He's always been there. And when I realize that, then all of a sudden that spirit of love and grace and acceptance and kindness, that's what I want to follow.
Yeah, that's what's
not
leading.
Not this arrogant, cocky,
self-centered.
self-centered person. Agreed.
That's all. That's a beautiful way to put it. And I think it's wise because all of us have the tendency to be sort of self-centered. And sometimes we need people to point us out. And I love that's what you said. When people correct us, it may hurt our feelings, but it doesn't harm us in any way.
Right.
And that is absolutely true. So this weekend, we're up for Father's Day weekend.
Yeah, let's see what that looks like.
And we'll see
we
how
don't want to tell everybody what's happening.
That's right.
Because first of all, we have to figure out what we're going to do, and then we can
then
we can tease them about
That's
it.
right.
But it's going to be fun. We have several possibilities, and we're working on it for this week and the next week, and then the 25th
Anniversary.
celebrating 25 years of Suncoast on July the 9th. So is that the 9th?
Yep, the 9th.
Yeah. So
Awesome things coming down the pipeline.
A lot of
man.
good things.
Awesome. Thanks, Dr. Baucom.
My pleasure.